Welcome to Venom Video. My name is Chris Nicastro. I'm the Director of R&D for Venom Group International. We're here to talk about the VMX 1/4 scale radio-controlled dirt bike. We'll be covering some talking points about general maintenance and what you should look out for, how to make your product work to its full potential, and just some key things that you should keep track of so that you can get the best performance possible. Now that you've been running your VMX for a few battery packs, it's a good thing to look at a few key points just to make sure the bike's performing up to speed. So I'll talk you through some points here. We'll take off the rider figure, and the first thing you want to notice is my suspension working freely? And you should notice that the bike should rebound, should cycle its suspension and rebound. Of course it's adjustable, but for the most part, let's just say that you've run it out of the box brand new and you haven't done any adjustments. So the bike should be free to work. The front and rear suspension should be all nice and plush. Key points to look for: back here you want to make sure that the shocks aren't leaking heavily. A little bit of weeping is fine, but if it's flowing out of the fork cap, that's a problem, so that's something to look out for. You want to check both sides and make sure that the forks are just, they can be slightly damp, maybe what we would call weeping, meaning just a light film of oil. But if you have a lot of runny oil or a big wet spot, you probably have a damaged seal. Next point you want to cover is the rear shock. Same as the front forks, you want to make sure that there should be no moisture, no oil leaking outside. There shouldn't be a big wet puddle. So generally you want to look for a good clean rear shock, except for any dirt and debris that have been kicked up on it. It generally should be dry. Next thing we want to look at is the chain. The chain will have a preset tension from the factory. What you want to look for is general wear and tear on the chain, which will allow it to be a little more slack over time. With more cycles, the chain will get a little more relaxed, the sprockets will break in, and the chain tension will change. That's a very common misconception, that the chain is ruined or worn prematurely when you have a slack chain, but in fact it's a combination of factors. The front sprocket and the rear sprocket and the chain will all wear together. The chain, being made of steel, will have the least amount of wear in comparison to the softer aluminum and brass sprockets. So that's something to keep track of and also maintain, which we'll cover in the next segment.